Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rosie TV Official. So this is a channel for depression, anxiety, and suicidal attacks. We're going to be sharing real life stories. So it's story time. All right, so here we go. My parents named me Hubert because it meant the bright spirit, but I did not shine as much before. I was almost like a wallflower throughout my days until college. My father was a truck driver and he was not around the house much of the time, and my mother worked as one of the maids at a hotel. They both had different schedules and were mostly busy, and I did not have much time to do the house besides do my homework or watch TV. It felt like lonely at times, and I dozed off sometimes while watching TV. Nothing I liked was on. When I saw my parents and their conversation, brought me some joy and some sense of satisfaction at that time. They asked me about my school, what I learned, and gave me some help if I needed it. They occasionally took me to the zoo or some park, or sometimes even the movies, as we would get some ice cream or hot dogs or some fast food or way back on our way home. Point is, when they were home, they never left me alone, and we would always be doing something together, whether it was with my mom or it was with my dad. Helping out here and there, hearing them praise me made good grades and do good things and made lots of friends. However, life was mostly a mix of ups and downs since I came to one revelation after another. And my goals shifted now and then. Some lessons came harder than others, like people were capable of saying and promising me something, but not delivering. Talking something of mine that belonged to me and not giving it back to me or breaking it. Hitting someone and laughing at them when they cried. Saying they were a little baby when someone said they promised not to tell anyone, but the next time you go there and everyone knows it. So on and forth. But the worst was the stare that people gave me if I did not do as I was told. Something about it that terrified me so much, I did not want to find out what came next. So I tried to do better and went on with what was going on around me with my classmates, who I thought were my friends, but I was basically a pushover boy who kept seats for them. Shared my homework since they knew I had good grades. Shared my lunch, which they forget. In return, I got the privilege of being part of a group that they invited me outside for playing. And we used to go to the playground. We used to go to the football park. But I mostly was there for extra cash for them, as they borrowed some money from me, but never returned it to me. And I was afraid to ask for it since they would kick me out of their group. And I did not want to lose my friends. Whether I liked it or not, they were part of my life, because more than half of my days were spent in my school where I had to see their faces. My teachers knew, my parents knew, and their parents knew we hung out together, as they made me come to their house all the time since nothing fun to do at my house. No cool and latest toys and gadgets and pool either. I admit that I was not a bright kid and got taken advantage of very easily, and it did not stop there in future, as well as I did mess up badly in future as well with my new problems that came across. Time passed and I had started going to high school. And I saw different types of people at this time, different from the ones I knew, and they all had separate values. They wanted to keep in how they dressed, spoke, and they were, and what they were, and what they liked. I was confident and thought to myself, I better not mess up this time and be less gullible. But there was a new type of trouble that came up, and I was not ready for this. It was verbal attacks. Verbal attacks. People made fun by arranging words in a special order, attacking in such a way that it hurt, but there was no wound. Twist of fate. was the kids I grew up with, also there, and we're still the same group. And I learned not to listen to their requests. But at that time, they were the ones that were the odd ones this time. And I was dragged along for the ride as I was with them, as I seen as part of their group, even though they barely talked and did not hang out with them. They talked to me first and were still the same pushy kids that they were before. They were good at sports, and turned out they picked a fight with some new kids in the area who were part of the team for captain's role, if I remember correctly. How I fit in the equation was that the new kids I knew I grew up with. For that reason, they wanted me to be friends with them. So they invited me to their houses for hanging out, for parties. And I realized something I already knew, but not to this extent, which was that we had less money than others. And maybe if I get rich, people will love me as they did with the new kids. Everyone kept talking about them. When they spoke, people stopped to hear them. The music, the lights, the fun, everybody was having made me glad to be there as part of their popular group. The more I learned to know about them, the meeker I felt as they talked about how they had been to their cities for vacations and drinks I had seen on TV, met popular people but no big pictures for reasons. But they had a big house, so I believe it either way. So I did not leave a bad impression on them. We went upstairs together through the crowd of people and noticed people were happy when they talked to them. So these are our favorite people. The people who talk to them. I mean, these are new kids that came to the area who are rich people. Hubert met these people that came to the area who are rich people. So that these kids are being liked by everybody. So everybody sees them and they like them. They included me in some of the games, and then we went to a separate room where they sat down and started a game of truth and dare. It started as light teasing, and then they said they would not judge who I am, and it felt real that the people I barely know were willing to accept me as a friend. So I played their game, and we asked for each other's hobbies, favorite foods, celebrity crushes, local codes, and all that, among others. It was fine because they knew about each other's codes, because they spoke some combinations, and the other kids accepted, and it was the right one. It could be one of the popular kid things, so I took it lightly. The game was over after a while, and they asked me my childhood and how I was friends with those kids I grew up with. And I thought since they were a major part of my life, I told them how we hung out together, but they were not that close to me. One of the friends told me how badly he wanted a captain's role because he made a promise to someone and he needed my help find out the locker codes of my old group and slip out to put a cigarette pack in it. I wanted to refuse, and I did say I did not want to do it, but they said that nothing would happen. Nothing will happen to me if I did. Learning from past moments, I was not convinced, and there was a stir again, but I did not back away since finding something like this would bring a lot of trouble. But they said I did not even like them, so I should forget about them. I should decide my own life and find new friends and let go of the old ones. New friends, better friends, popular group. This idea seems enticing, and for a moment I did consider doing it, but my mind told me that it was not a good thing to do. So, so many things goes on in our mind. I mean, when we go through, I mean, people, I know most of you can relate. I mean, if you've been in high school, you've been in junior elementary school, so, like you can relate so many. You've met friends, and so you can relate how things work. I mean, you guys can talk about so many things. So you sometimes we get to a moment to just think, oh, what am I going to do? What I'm doing, is it right or not? But some of us, we just don't think about it, we just do it. So I mean, everybody does it differently, so we do things differently. So that's how sometimes you have to take a moment. You need to take a moment and think about making decisions. I mean, when we are kids, things are done differently, so you just go ahead and do it without thinking twice. So I apologized and left, but the next day I was called out in the middle of the class by one of my teachers to come to the locker room, and when I followed him, my heart kept racing and I could feel something was wrong. As we took the turn, I saw the new kid standing there, as well as the vice principal of the school was also present, and they looked very angry. Upon their order, I opened it slowly. My heart was racing even more faster now. I could feel sweat start coming down my body, and I knew it want to be around this. I didn't want to be around these angry looks when it opened. There was an unfamiliar phone inside it, and one of the kids quickly grabbed it and turned on, and his picture was on the lock screen. The pieces clicked in my mind, and I opened my mouth for justification, but the vice principal stopped me and told me to come to the office right away. I followed them slowly into the office, and as soon as the door closed, one of them said, "I knew you were poor, but they don't know you were this petty. Typical cheap people." I retorted that they hid it there, and the principal and vice principal asked how they do it, and when I was the only one that knew the code. I said, "They asked me in the party yesterday and the VIP finished. And you expect me to believe you told them?" I told them everything, but the secret thing, the more I spoke and saw their expressions, the more I realized that I was making a fool out of myself. It did not look like they believed me. So the vice principal had enough. My parents were called. They apologized. It was agreed that this would not spread any further since the other side did not want any action, but I was to be expelled from school. My parents went home with me, hanging my head in shame, and we never spoke after that. I'm sure we all go we school, I mean in high school and in so many, I mean we go through so many phases in school, in high school. I mean we all did one or two things that we all did, like we experienced bad issues. Some people have issues in school, high school and all that. We do experience all that. So I mean there's been a situation in school, they had to call your parents, that I mean, some things you do not want them to hear. So a whole lot happens in high school. I'm sure you can relate. So to be continued, the topic was brought up again, but they do not believe it either of how gullible I was. I stopped going out and stayed at home in my own misery, wasting time on the internet, growing a belly, and making excuses when my parents tried to talk to me. Thought about ending it since my life was already over. I feared going out since I would immediately be recognized and everybody knew what I did. And my parents gave up after a while and let me be. A year passed and I felt like a burden to myself. I decided to run away, and it was a failure since I do not know how much about doing that. I didn't have much idea about doing that. Self-help books, motivation reels, listening to countless other experiences made me proud in comparison. times and times again, I built up courage and decided to change myself and failed. This went on so many times, and I got angry and took the second step and the third. And then I came downstairs to my parents, and they were shocked to see me. And I spoke. I want to go out again. He said, I want to go out again. Yes, so this is the story of Hubert, and I'm going to continue this in my next video, in my next episode. Please leave your comments in there. Leave your comments and let me know what you think. Can you relate? What are you going through? It's going to continue. Are you ready for this next one? See you in my next video.